All right, so let's start our webinar and let's tell you what we are doing today. You all know me. I'm Dr. Samina Ahmad. I'm a medical doctor with training in holistic health. So I always feel they are together. Integrative medicine, it's a 360-degree approach. You cannot have modern medicine all by itself and not think of the holistic aspect. I always combine the two, saying it's like having, you know, sages, right? You have the sages, and then you have these, people who are obviously the scientists. So scientists and sages coexist. It's like me, ignoring one aspect of my existence. I am mind, body, and spirit. I'm not just a body. So please try to look at yourself as a whole entity, 360 degrees. And I'm also on the advisory board of Life Farm since many years. I've stopped counting now. So, next slide. The invisible invaders inside you. Oh my God. Can anybody guess who the invisible invaders are inside you? They are in your food, they are in your water, and now, unfortunately, they're also in your gut. Oops. They have made it inside you because they are very resilient. Let's move to the next slide and find out who are these. So it's plastics. We talk about plastic all the time. We are using it in our lives, but we don't know how dangerous this invader is. And if you don't find out who your enemy is, you will never have the tools to get rid of that enemy, right? You need to know what your enemy does. Like when we got COVID-19, we had to understand COVID-19. We had to really read about it. Who is this virus? What does he look like? What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? So, in order to get rid of anything, you need to know the details. And that's what this webinar will give you today. Are you eating plastic without knowing it? So, this is a very interesting fact that literally you are ingesting 5 grams of microplastics, these tiny, tiny grains of plastic every week. And that seems to be the weight of a credit card. Wow, that's a very astonishing fact. And it's also a fact that makes you feel very, kind of unsettled, for sure. Okay, let's find out more about the plastics. What are microplastics? We're not talking the generalized term called plastics. So we're going to find out these invisible particles that we consume because you don't really see them. I'm sure if you saw them, you wouldn't open your mouth and ingest them. But the interesting fact here is that they're invisible. So it's an enemy that you can't really see with your eyes. So let's see the invisible plastics. So these invisible plastics, and I'm sure this particular picture is from a microscope and you are able to see the size like that, but they are less than 5 millimeters, so tiny. And where are they found? In the air. And we already said they are in the water, they're in the food, and this word ubiquitous, it's an interesting word here. Ubiquitous. It basically means it's present and it's everywhere. So it's persistent in the environment. It's just you can't really get away from it. It's everywhere. Next slide. Where do microplastics come from? So I'm sure you know about the secondary microplastics because we are using those bottles every day, those plastic bottles, right? Bottled water is so available now. Like, I mean, it's everywhere, all over the world, globally. And they have seen it in 94% of US samples. Wow, that's a lot. So the primary and secondary microplastics, let's look at the primary ones. These are small plastics, so glitter and synthetic fabric, like, polyester clothes or nylon. In the fiber, these plastics are present there, and those shiny glitter. Secondary ones, of course, larger size, you can see them, they are in containers. The food that you sometimes put in plastic containers, in your refrigerator, those are plastics. I always urge people not to microwave food in a plastic container. It's very dangerous for you. And also, a lot of times I've seen people putting their food, they get these smart foods, I think they are called. They are available in all these, grocery stores and supermarkets. You go into the frozen section and you'll see those TV dinners. We used to call them TV dinners once upon a time. Now they all have their own name. And many bachelors or people who don't like cooking or don't know cooking, they just grab those and they put them in the microwave. And they have a plastic film. You are told to remove it. I get that. But guess what? You remove the plastic film, but the container is plastic. That's the crazy thing. And I say that from my own lifetime experience, because recently I traveled to Canada in a car, and I drove there and I came back. So we tried to break our journey, my husband and I. So we stayed at a hotel, and it was very late when we arrived at the hotel. And, I think it was about 12 or 1 o'clock, and Uber Eats was closed. I tried to find it on my phone, and I was hungry. My husband was hungry too. So the only option was to go to the pantry of this hotel and see what's available. And I went there and I saw chocolates and chips, and I didn't see anything that I wanted to eat, but I did see something which resembled food. And there was this box of noodles, like the soba noodles. And of course, I knew you had to microwave it, but I was hungry. So I got that. And I said, I'm going to take it to the room and I'm going to obviously have that one. So I took it to the room and I put it in but like when I looked at it, it had that film I took out, but the noodles were in a plastic, like ooh, they looked horrible. They looked like plastic too. But you had to actually take them out of that, heat up some water and put them in it, and they would swell up. And then they had given you some sauces to sprinkle. When you're too hungry, you will eat anything. I think you'll eat. They say that you can eat a carton or literally a piece of cardboard. So that was me that night. I didn't like what I ate, but I ate it. So that's sometimes what we are stuck with: plastic packaging, food containers, and all this crazy. And then what else is plastic? Your everyday activities, the dust, the air, especially the urban air. The rural air gets very clean, because of the trees and the fact that there is no construction, there's no factory. But the urban air gets all the fumes from the factories and a lot of pollution from so many things. So when you wash your clothes, even that is going to, liberate all these, because your clothes have those microplastics in it. And then seafood and meat. 88% of samples of meat had these, and sea salt. So these are like small particles. They can get attached to any kind of thing, any food. So let's move to the next slide and see what are we going to do about these microplastics and why do they matter. So they are non-biodegradable. And I think you must have known that, because you will notice that these plastic shopping bags, they don't get destroyed or anything. We kind of want to recycle them, put them back in our, recycle boxes. But fine, more plastic will be made from them, but they are not going to disappear. So they make their way into the sea. A lot of times, these plastic wrappers and plastic straws, they get stuck inside fish and turtles. Especially, they have seen that those straws that you use to drink beverages, they get stuck in the nostrils of turtles, those baby turtles, those poor animals in the sea. The sea animals, they are the ones who get constricted because of our plastic usage. We throw plastic bags in water, we throw them when we go to the beach. I see it all around. We have to be more responsible. So sometimes you inhale them, you ingest them. And what do? They cause inflammation. And inflammation is never good. And what else do they do? You've understood inflammation because we talk about it whenever I talk about disease. And I tell you, every disease begins with acute inflammation. And inflammation means that all your tissues are going to show stress, and there'll be swelling, there'll be, you know, heat over there, and the tissue starts literally getting affected by oxidative stress. I do want to tell you what oxidative stress is. So oxidative stress happens, you want you want to have you never want oxidation of areas, which means like the this oxygen molecule is very unstable. It's always unstable. It needs to be stabilized. And you stabilize it with antioxidants. And they are found in all your vegetables and your fruits, especially the green leafy vegetables. So antioxidants will stop this oxidative stress. Oxidative stress always happens when the number of radicals, those destroying free radicals, is going to be more than antioxidants in your body. So those radicals or free radicals are the unstable molecules of oxygen, and we don't want those in our body because they start causing the inflammation. And acute inflammation will always lead to chronic inflammation if you don't stop that cycle, that vicious cycle. So, how do we prevent ourselves from inhaling these? How can we? We need to inhale. You take a deep breath in, you take in whatever is coming, and these are invisible. So, when you are taking in oxygen, which you need, these are going inside your nose and into your respiratory passages, your lungs, starting to really cause inflammation, and by the way, even cancers. So let's move on. Can we remove microplastics? That's a very important question, right? Well, the bad or sad news is there is no human method to remove these microplastics. So this is a very, I guess, unsettling kind of illustration where you see the skeleton, that's us, our bones and our body, and they're showing you how those plastics have invaded your body and are everywhere, and you can't see them, so they are invisible invaders, and they will lead to diseases, whether it's an autoimmune disorder, it's a disorder in the gut. Like, if you remember that gut disorders are the inflammatory disorders are Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and these are all related to inflammation of your gut. If these particles are going to make it to your gut and then into your bloodstream, we will get all kinds of disease. We have to stop them. Where do we stop them? We have some guards in our body, like, soldiers or security guards. This is your gut barrier. It's a barrier which will prevent all the bad things from really getting absorbed into your body through the blood, right? So you have to strengthen your gut. That is the first principle, that if we have a strong gut, or our soldiers, our microbes in the gut are strong, then these invaders will not be able to penetrate and go inside. And the second thing would be your cellular health. If your cells have long telomeres, if they are healthy, they can regenerate. If there is everything, like mitochondria functioning well, then you have a good chance of fighting this problem, because we already told you that there is no other method of removing them. So, safeguarding your gut and your cells is where the whole thing rests. Next slide. Okay, so the gut, like I said, is your first line of defense. And, when you see this particular illustration, you'll notice, well, something I have already told you about the gut. Maybe I can ask you. Okay, let me test you. What have I told you about the gut, which is very visible right now when you're looking at this diagram? I want to see in the chat who's going to answer me. Okay, let's see. Let's see what you say. What is so particular or something unusual about the digestive system, which does not apply to other systems in the body? And I think you can right now notice it, something that is very visible. Can anybody answer? Just answer. It's okay. We learn. Sometimes we give the wrong answer, but then what will happen is the memory of the right answer will become very important, very strong. You'll never forget the answer. So give it a try. What is something about the digestive system, starting from your mouth all the way to your rectum and the anus, very interesting about this gut? No, this is the gut. What makes it more, or what makes it different from other systems? Do you see right now there is nothing? No, okay, so Yvette said enzymes. Okay, enzymes, that you guys are all right. This is the gut. Enzymes are there in that gut. The length, well, that would be one thing, but probably not the answer I'm seeking right now. What is something so unusual about this particular system which makes it more vulnerable to infection, to the invaders, to viruses and bacteria and all those crazy things that can hurt it? Well, the answer is it has no protection. It does not have any bone which is hiding it like that. All the other systems of your body have the skeletal system which is protecting it. I can fall somewhere and my lungs are not going to get killed. My heart is going to stay protected. Even my eyes, they are the socket, it's at the back. So the nose is to protect the eyes. You know why the nose is there? So if I fall, I won't like hurt my eyes. My nose can get hurt. It's okay. No problem. So here there is nothing to protect it. It's lying naked, totally naked in your body. No protection. So the invaders can really go for it, right? That's what I wanted to, tell you, that this is the most unprotected system in your body, but the most important system in your body. And so the gut is your first line of defense. The gut lining, of course, what's it doing? It's basically creating a certain kind of a protection for you from your immune system. All right. So it's protecting, these from entering the bloodstream. Now remember, anything that enters your bloodstream then has made it into your body now and is going to, if it has bad stuff in it, because you ate some food which was not nutritious, you had a very unbalanced diet. Now you've eaten it, you've chewed the food, and it got digested and it made its way into the bloodstream. We have to stop it before it goes into the bloodstream. That's why I told you about the gatekeepers of the gut, right? The great gatekeepers of the gut is your microbiome, the good bacteria which are living there in the colon. So the gut lining is going to help you. It prevents harmful substances, especially microplastics. And what else does it do? It's going to support your absorption, your inflammation. So if you have a very strong microbiome or the good bacteria, you have a very good chance of, you know, protecting yourself from environments, the microplastics. But what happens is if your gut is not functioning well, you can get something called the leaky gut. How many people on this call know about the leaky gut syndrome or have heard the word leaky gut? The name applies that something is leaking, right? So if this is the barrier, this is your barrier, and this is the side, the colon side with all the good bacteria, everything else. We don't want the bad stuff to come here, which is the bloodstream. So sometimes in some people, they don't have a good gut or a good microbiome. So toxins and all kinds of poisonous things, even sometimes bacteria and germs like those can make it into the bloodstream. And leaky gut will cause chronic issues in your body. So let's move to the next slide. So this is that leaky gut that I was talking about, right? So this is the stomach, the picture of the stomach. And you can see the upper part is the esophagus. You eat the food, it goes into the esophagus, and then it goes into the stomach where all the acid is. And from that acid, you come to the first part of duodenum, then you go to the to the C. We call it the duodenum, the C. Now, this picture is not of the colon where the problem happens. It's just a visual. So the leaky gut syndrome or a problem does not happen directly here in the stomach. It happens in the colon, which is your, literally area of the gut where all the absorption is going to take place, right? This is where the bacteria are also. So the intestines have certain junctions, like they have certain, like two cells are connected like this, totally stuck to each other. The problem happens when certain spaces appear between the two cells. So now instead of stuck to each other, the junctions, there is a gap and things can pass through. And that is going to leak into the bloodstream. And this could be, like I mentioned, toxins, microbes, food which you could not digest. You had problem digesting. So partially digested food is not a good thing. It can go into the system and cause inflammation. And I already talked about the fact that you can get IBS, fatigue, autoimmune disorders, brain fogs. A lot of people get allergies because of that too. You've heard about lactose intolerance. These are people who don't have the enzyme lactase in their body, so they have a deficiency of that enzyme or do not have the enzyme and unable to digest this sugar called lactose. And because of that, they're always bloated, they have gas, they have burping, indigestion, because there is a problem in the body. They have certain allergies to that particular product. You'll drink milk. Milk has lactose, it's a milk protein. So you're going to drink milk and now you are in pain. Either you will run to the bathroom because your bowels became loose, or you will start having brain fog or headache, or you will start having pain in your belly or gas. So a good gut barrier is going to restore all kinds of issues. Let's move to the next slide. The role of probiotics and prebiotics. So this is an interesting picture. Here you can see the colon. You can see the ascending, the transverse, the descending, and like all this picture shows you the colon. So uh, what we want is to have probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics, are a lot of times you'll go to a certain supplement store and it'll say that this has millions of certain bacillus, or they'll name those probiotics. It's actually the good bacteria. So the good bacteria, some people will take it by drinking a liquid or taking a supplement. And these probiotics are going to go and get lodged in that colon. And they are the ones which are amazing for your gut. Now, remember, we don't always have to supplement. We can ideally, when you are a young person, your gut is working well, you have that microbiome already. It was given to you by nature. But with age and time, or with bad lifestyle practices, your microbiome starts dying or starts becoming less, and that's when the issues happen. So, the microbiome is important, like I mentioned, but so are the prebiotics. What are prebiotics? Prebiotic is the food of the bacteria, because bacteria are a living thing, they are living organisms. They also need to eat. What will they eat? They don't want to eat you while sitting there. They're not going to eat you. Thank God for that. They need food, and that food is prebiotics, which in a simpler word could be fiber. any fiber you consume through your food, whether you are having green leafy vegetables or you're eating certain fruits which have a lot of fiber, or you're consuming artificial fiber or like psyllium husk or something, that is all fiber. It is food for the bacteria. And so having probiotics and prebiotics means you have a healthy microbiome or a good colony of bacteria. When I say that, that also means you have a strong gut lining. Your cells, which are supposed to allow entry of all the stuff that we have eaten, will have tight junctions and there will be no leaks. So all the food that is fully digested will be able to enter the bloodstream and no microbes or toxins will enter. So let's move to the next slide. Why short chain fatty acids matter for gut health? So short chain fatty acids. Basically, the role of these bacteria or the microbiome is to cause fermentation, right? So fiber is going to, these bacteria are lying there and now we are eating the fiber. So basically, fiber will arrive there and these bacteria will cause fermentation of the fiber. Fermentation is a process which releases gases. It releases short chain fatty acids. And one of them, which I want you to remember, one name of a short chain fatty acid is butyrate. That is the name I want you to memorize, butyrate, because butyrate is what is produced out of that fermentation and it becomes food or fuel, or it's call it like it really causes the colon cells to start functioning. Like, when you wake up something, you kind of give it some food and it gets recharged, the fuel. Like you as a human being, your fuel is water and food. So the fuel of the colon cells is actually this butyrate. And the fuel for your car is the gas, right? So we have to understand that. So these tight junctions are going to be strengthened by the butyrate. And these short chain fatty acids, they are acid. So they make an acidic pH. Acidic pH is always below 7, and then above 7 is the alkaline pH. So below 7 pH means that no pathogen or microorganism will grow. So microorganisms do not grow in acidic environment. So we are happy butyrate comes into, existence, it's produced, and now pathogens are not going to grow. It also supports the mucus barrier, so enhances the mineral absorption. There is a mucus barrier right where these cells are that I talked about. They are covered with mucus, right? So this butyrate is also helping the mucus barrier. And then inflammation is also not going to take place the way it does. And your immune system is strong. And then they say that also helps in cancer prevention and in certain treatments. So look at all the benefits of these short chain fatty acids and how beneficial they are for your gut health. So let's move to the next slide. Now comes our hero, digestive. And Digestive 3 Plus is supporting gut protection. So Life Farms product Digestive, many of you take it, right? How many people on our group are taking Digestive regularly? So Irene is thanking me for helping her or helping the group to understand the power of the products. You are welcome, Irene. Wout is taking Digestive. Judith is taking it regularly. And Wout is saying, I'm taking it 15 minutes before every meal. Okay, George, you also, excellent. It's one of the best products that I feel I recommend. And the reason I say that it's a 3-in-1. There are very few supplements, which have this feature, because a lot of times, you might have a probiotic which is separate, a prebiotic which is separate, digestive enzymes which are separate. But this particular product, 3-in-1, it has digestive enzymes, it has probiotics, it has prebiotics. So you don't need to take like when you travel also, you don't take so many bottles. You just take, your digestive bottle with you. And yeah, so Cassia, you said you're taking it, and you're taking digestive laminine together, which is good. Those are the two products a lot of people take together. They really feel the benefit. And today, as you are listening to this webinar, you will see how we will also do that very soon. Okay, so Digestive 3 Plus is supporting your gut protection. How is it doing it? It is making your gut lining better. It is balancing your microbiomes. It is also promoting digestion and elimination. So, how digestive supports your gut protection? So, of course, it's making the gut lining stronger. It's making sure the leakages don't happen, digestion is happening, elimination, and also your inflammatory response to the toxins. So the microbiome is also working well there. All right, so let's move on to the next slide because we have spoken about, digestive a lot of times about digestive. But I want you to memorize this slide, take a picture of it, because when you are explaining the product to your client, you need to have some simple facts for them. And I think people learn visually. A lot of times, people also learn by hearing things, but a lot of them love to see a vision or like a little picture. So if you look at the picture here, you see the short change fructo oligosaccharides. It's a difficult name. Don't worry about it. It's basically like a fiber. That's all it's saying. It's just a fiber, and it's a fiber that they have put inside like a short chain, which we talked about the short chains, right? We explained to you uh, about how the importance of short chain fatty acids. So that's a short chain fatty acid, which is going to become food for the bacteria. You have Jerusalem artichoke. Again, it'll become food for your bacteria. Dandelion, fiber, it is food for the bacteria. The yacon root, food for the bacteria. Now, Life Farm decided to choose the most strongest prebiotic blend. It's like putting these four together, you are getting some exotic, some very unique probiotic blends together for your system. Whereas you would have been struggling to buy the right uh, fruits or the vegetables, they have made it easy for you. So, this is the combination of the prebiotic blend in digestive, which you will share with your clients. And this is part of the Digestive 3 Plus. Next slide. And look at the enzymes. So this is a very nice diagram, thanks to Leah. We can see where this enzyme is produced. If you look at the first one, salivary amylase, it's produced in the mouth. And I want to tell you something interesting. When you look at food, as soon as you look at your plate, just with your eyes, the smell, you have saliva coming out of your mouth, especially if you eat something which you love. Everybody has favorite foods. Even the thought of something that you love will produce saliva. And this saliva in your mouth is actually producing what? It's producing salivary amylase, right? So salivary amylase is that particular enzyme which digests carbohydrates at this level only. It starts. So digestion started before you put anything in your mouth. And they say you must chew your food 32 times. You know why? You have 32 teeth. So remember that 32 times chewing. My Ayurvedic professors and teachers told me that anybody who takes any bite and chews it 32 times like that and try to do it, you will notice that what you put in your mouth became a liquid, totally like this green tea, right? So imagine now this liquid is going inside your body. There is no pressure on the rest of the body, no burden to digest. Such an easy movement of, when we drink water or tea, It flows. There is no burden on it. Now, people who are in a hurry to eat, I call it the dumping syndrome. One, two, it's like you don't even pause between your bites. You're in such a hurry to eat. Don't do that. It's the worst thing. My brother's a surgeon. One day he came to me and he goes, "Do you know Popin?" That's my nickname. He calls me Popin. Actually, it's Popinisht. I think a German, probably somebody can correct me though. In German language, Popinisht means doll, maybe a fat doll. My parents named me Popin. So, uh, he goes, "Do you know I can eat my lunch in 2.5 minutes?" I said, "What? Do you want me to get impressed when you're telling me that you can finish your food in 2.5 minutes?" He said, "It's so good. I do it in 2.5 minutes. Then I can run to do another surgery." Well, maybe good for the patient who's getting surgery done that you are so quick, but not good for you. So I would urge all of you to please eat food slowly, mindfully. In my holistic training, I have learned that you must sit separately in a nice, quiet place, away from chaos, away from television, away from noise, and do mindful eating. Use all your five senses and chew your food nicely. Don't talk in between your eating. When you're talking, they have proven this also. You are unable to digest food if you talk, eat, more chances of choking, of swallowing the food in the wrong pipe. And, the food does not give you that nourishment. Food has a certain energy. You must understand that part. If you want to benefit from that energy, you need to eat in a quiet place. It's for your own betterment. Call it self care, self love. And today I was reading about this importance of self care. Don't call it selfishness. It's so important. They say you must have compassion, you must have empathy for people in your life. Well, the most important person in your life is you. Have compassion for yourself, have empathy for yourself. You deserve it. Go get yourself a massage. Take care of yourself. Actually, if you can't go and get yourself a massage, I tell people you massage yourself. Okay, you have hands. You can actually give yourself a nice head massage. We learned it in Ayurvedic medicine to do a head massage, a foot massage, do your own reflexology. Try to, you have marma points, you have different points in your hands and feet that you can actually also press and give yourself benefit. Watch a movie, go on a vacation, sleep. There's so much you can do to pamper yourself. So, like I said, self care is important, and then eating restfully in a very mindful way. And now you see the salivary amylase. Okay, gastric proteases and lipases. They are secreted right where you see the stomach. Then you have your pancreatic enzymes in the pancreas and pancreatic lipase to digest fats. Lipase is always for fats. Proteases for proteins, amylases for carbohydrates. Lactase number 4 is produced over there in the gut. And so, the pH is written over here about the best pH. What is the stomach pH? It's acidic. Stomach is usually, acidic. There's a lot of acid coming out. Intestines are alkaline. So it's such an intelligent system in our body. I tell you, it's so intelligent. Okay, I think I did cover everything here, but why do we have this slide? Digestion, enzymes are important for digestion, and guess what? Digestive plus 3 has all these digestive enzymes. So we talked about the prebiotics and we talked about the probiotics, and I think I didn't tell you, but digestive has Bacillus coagulans. That is the bacteria in the probiotic inside this particular supplement. And why Bacillus coagulans and in what packaging? So it's such an interesting thing because Life Farm believes in science and the scientific approach. So this bacteria is in a capsule. And the reason they put it in a capsule is so that the acid of the stomach and the heat in the stomach does not open up this capsule and release the bacteria in your stomach. We don't want the bacteria to be released in your stomach. There is too much acid. It will destroy the bacteria. The bacteria will not be able to make it to the colon where we want it to be. In the colon is when this capsule will open up. It's going to open up when it's required for its opening, so it gets lodged where the microbiome is. Next slide. How digestive boosts your butyrate production. So it increases the butyrate level by 39%, which is it's almost 40%, almost like half. That's like 100% is your best. So we're almost talking half of that. That's amazing. It's increasing that level by a big margin and strengthens your gut lining and microbiome. It improves the digestion. Again, when it's going to make sure that microplastics and toxins don't enter, protecting you against inflammation, oxidative stress, and having an environment where you don't have pathogens or any bacteria or viruses. So we are repeating everything I've already told you on this slide. The only new information you got through this slide was that the level of butyrate, the short chain fatty acid that was produced through the fermentation process, is 39%. And why do we have that figure? I will tell you why and how we got the 39%. Next slide. So before we go to the explanations of the levels, we will bring in our another hero, laminine. So we spoke about digestive, and now we're going to talk about laminine. So we have spoken about laminine many times. You guys are taking laminine. Some are taking laminine and digestive together. So repair and resilience, R and R. At what level? Cellular level. What does laminine have? Again, let's do a little revision. In fact, let me quiz you. Okay, I'm going to quiz you today. I'm going to go back to the chat and ask you to see who knows what's in laminine. Okay, so that's the question, and I'm expecting everybody to answer this question. What does laminine have? We did digestive already. You've learned it. Digestive has prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, right? You read about that. What else did we read? We told you about all that. Yes. Okay. So Kesia wrote FGF2. Good job. That's right. The growth factors. Laminine has growth factors. The most important thing that Life Farm is always incorporating in all its ingredients. What is that? And of course, FGF2 comes from there. So what do we call it? Amino acids. Okay, no. So egg extract. Adina, thank you. Judith, thank you. But I want you to always write fertilize. Yes, wow, you did it. I was about to say fertilized, not fertilized egg extract, okay? So that is important. Now, the fertilized egg extract, chicken egg extract, because eggs can be from different sources, it's an egg extract, and it has what? It has what was just mentioned by, let me just go back. Let's see who mentioned it. I want to make sure I give credit to Kesia, FGF2. So fibroblast growth factor 2, you know that? All right, fibroblast, there are other growth factors. Transforming growth factor, one is that. And platelet-derived growth factor. Platelet-derived growth factor beta. So these are three: FGF2, platelet-derived growth factor 2, transforming growth factor. So just remember the growth factors. Okay, we put them there. What else? What else is in laminine? I think, Kesia, you wrote aminozurin, but I mean, it might be you were saying amino acids. So I'm going to take that as the answer. So all those essential amino acids that we know are important, where are they coming from? What has Life Farm put in laminine to get those amino acids? Where? What is the source? Amino acids are Proteins, right? The building blocks for proteins. Where is the protein coming from? Does anybody know in the group? You remember pea protein? How many people remember pea protein? Pea protein. What about marine protein? Fish protein. That is also in laminin. And these two, the pea protein and the fish protein, are making up all those. They are actually the source of all those amino acids, which are so important. So, yeah, so I want you to remember that. That is very important. You know, whenever you have an IBO, as an IBO, you're an IBO, you're doing business. And if you want to sell me laminin, you have to tell me what is so special about this product. Why should I take laminin? You have to convince me. So you must be familiar with all the ingredients of this product, because that's the only way you'll be able to tell people this really works. So you must be wondering why I'm bringing laminin into this discussion of microplastics. I brought digestive and I proved to you that digestive is so important and it should be used, right? So that we don't have a problem with with these microplastics. So repair and resilience. Okay, so what happens is with laminin, you already know it was causing repair and regeneration. So plastics are destroying your cells. Microplastics are actually causing inflammation, and laminin has an anti-inflammatory role. That is why we take laminin. Laminin also reduces stress, right? Cortisol levels go down. When a person has less stress, their immune system is important, which means their cellular health is important. So that's how you can tell them that laminin is important. Because all these stresses from the environment, microplastic is causing stress also. It is also causing inflammation. So laminin has always had that role because of FGF2 and all the other growth factors I talked about, the platelet-derived growth factor and also the transforming growth factor. These growth factors have the ability to go and repair all those cells. And cortisol reduction is always good, stress goes down. So if you use laminin and digestive together, let's move to the next slide and see what we can do. So digestive and laminin, if they are used together, let's say we started the protocol of using them together. We did a study, Lifefarm did a study, and this study was carried out by our two very brilliant scientists. Everybody knows Kimberly, and you have, of course, worked with Dr. Anduhar. He passed away. May God, rest his soul, give him a higher status in heaven. So we always say a prayer for him. He did so much work for Life Farm, and this was one of the experiments he did. So they took this study actually is on humans. So they took some subjects and they said, you are going to take 2 capsules of each, laminin and also digestive, for 4 weeks. So the protocol was that they gave one capsule of like laminin with a heavy meal and or a digestive with a heavy meal, and the second one also with a heavy meal. So two, and then one digestive in the morning, you can say with breakfast, and then with dinner, and then laminin also twice a day for 4 weeks. And what did they see? So if you see the before and after, the first table you see is 39% increase in short chain fatty acids. So the before and after, you can see there is a vertical axis which is showing the level of the short chain fatty acids, and from 48.1 it has gone to 67%. When you were if the subjects butyrate levels were done, and how were they doing the butyrate level? So I wanted to tell you, before the study they took the stool sample of the subject and measured the butyrate in the fecal, as a specimen. And then after 4 weeks, they again measured the butyrate in the stool sample and they saw that it had increased. And then if you see the table on the right side, we saw that the butyrate production, 39% again for butyrate. So short chain fatty acid production increased 39%, butyrate production also produced. It increased by about 39%. And because I do want to pinpoint also, there are many short chain fatty acids. It's not only butyrate, but this study was focusing especially not on all the short chain fatty acids per se. I mean, they did see overall, which you see the table, but the special short chain fatty acid, that particular one that the study worked on was butyrate. So that's a very, I think an extremely successful experiment. And you should definitely show this to your clients. And I also mentioned about cortisol levels, that everyone wants to reduce stress. So you want to talk about laminine and its role in stress reduction. Next slide. Okay, so the synergy, which we say is always good, two is better than one, digestive and laminine together, digestive helping with your short chain fatty acids and protecting and strengthening. Laminine is helping with repair, with reducing inflammation, stress reduction. The two together are making your gut barrier stronger, reducing inflammation, making sure that all the toxins are staying out of the internal system, total body internal resilience, making sure the blood does not receive toxins and all the other inflammatory as ingredients, right, that can cause trouble, that can lead to acute disease and chronic disease. So let's move to the next slide. Total body support, right? The world is toxic today. When we talk about these microplastics, you and I are convinced that these plastics are not going anywhere. In fact, there are people who are putting industries of plastic. It's not as if it's going away. I know some states in the US have banned the use of plastic bags. I don't know how Europe is doing it. We have paper bags now in many stores, but plastic still everywhere in many other countries. So let's look at this table. It just kind of reinforces and also in a way makes you help, like it makes it really easy for you to understand everything I told you. So look at digestive first. I told you it increases butyrate level by 39%. I already told you it heals the gut lining, it is restoring your microbiome, it is improving the elimination of toxins. Laminine, I said, is reducing cortisol by 23%, reducing stress, reducing inflammation, and making sure that your tissues heal. The two together, the gut-brain axis support. We always say that the brain here, which literally is where we perceive stress, the brain and the gut also very quickly will send, when there is any problem, supposing you're about to travel somewhere, the tension and pressure immediately affects the gut, and now you will have diarrhea. It's called traveler's diarrhea just before travel. So there is a connection between the two. We can definitely make that connection better, so we can have better, we do, if you do this, what I told you, you won't have a foggy brain. Your cognitive skills is all about how do you understand anything. If there are 10 people sitting here, one person immediately understands the question, and sometimes some people take a little longer. That's because we might be suffering from mental fog, and after COVID many people complained about mental fog. So I really feel that this table, you should take a picture of it, because it's a summary. Sometimes we don't have time to go through the whole webinar. Oh, let me just quickly look at this and I can explain it to my client, everything about working, the two together. So digestive and laminine together is the message that I'm giving you today, that if you want to get rid of the microplastics and make sure that they don't affect your internal environment, then definitely follow this regimen. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the protocol. We have written it so that you can understand the way to take it. With digestive, 2 capsules daily. And either, like, we usually want you to take it before a meal. It's always good, like 15 minutes before any meal is what I like for digestive. Only because it is going to start preparing all these enzymes, your digestive enzymes, 15 minutes before they'll be ready to receive the food. And you know that digestive enzymes decrease with age as we age, because nature gave you all the enzymes when you came into this world, but they start becoming less with age. That's why you need extra reinforcement. So take the 2 capsules daily before your largest meal. If your lunch is the largest, take it then. If your breakfast is the largest, then take those. And it can be taken on an empty stomach for gut lining benefits. And for people who are very sensitive, start with 1 capsule and then you can make it two. For laminine, 1 to 2 capsules in the morning to help regulate cortisol and your mood. And some people add 1 capsule in the evening so that they can get a little more help when they sleep. So if you have a lot of stress in your life, then we recommend 4 a day. And lemonine never hurt anyone, so you have no side effects. I've been using it, my family's been using it, and I've been with Life Farm for over 8, 9 years. So everything is good, no side effects. Consistency is the key. And here is another thing I want to tell you guys. I always tell people whenever you start a supplement, please take it for 3 months, which is 90 days, because no supplement is a magic pill. It's not as if, hey, we are going to wave this magic wand and everything will be all right. So the supplement takes a while to really show its effects. 3 months before you decide, hey, I don't think this is making a difference. Use it for 3 months, and if you feel it's benefited you, continue. Otherwise, it's your choice. You do what you want to. Okay, so 90 days to build the gut barrier and reduce the inflammation, and always hydrate yourself to support elimination of toxins and microplastics. So, hydration, I always stress on that you need to hydrate. Always carry some water with you, carry some liquid with you, and especially during summer months, which we are right now experiencing in the US, a lot of global warming, and we saw that in New York, especially. Oh my God, we had a very severe summer this time. So, till we meet again, I'm sending you all my love. And I always mention that at the end of the webinar, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay blessed.